your new album is called A Fleeting Melody Out of a Fading Dream. Was when it was released the beginning of June 4th, was it? Yeah.
That's correct.
Excellent. So you guys, this is like, I think your second album as Ashes Fallen. How has this experience of releasing this album at this point in time been, say, different than the previous one?
Oh, it's been quite a bit different. I mean, when we did our first album, we'd only been a band for a few months. Our other bandmate, Jason Shaw, and I had been in multiple bands together dating back over 20 years ago, but it was the first time we'd come together as Ashes Fallen, and we put together the album very quickly because we just wanted to have something to present and sell to folks. But in the subsequent time, we've done a lot of shows and spent more time together and really sort of determined what Ashes Fallen really is. And so our sound and approach have evolved quite a bit.
Okay, all right. Now I can't help but notice your background. Is that where you actually are?
Yes.
That's amazing.
It's behind the church.
So this is the church that you guys bought?
Right.
And tell me a little bit about it. It looks amazingly, if I may say, Gothic. So.
Yeah, we were living in Sacramento and decided we'd had enough of the city. So I basically said, let's run away to the hills. And I contacted our real estate agent, and he looked into a few things and he sent me a link to this place.
Right.
So we are about an hour out of Sacramento. We're in the foothills of the Sierra Mountains, and our property has got a church in the front, what we call the chapel. It was built in 1898.
Right.
And this is where we do all of our rehearsal and live stream performances. So yeah, it's pretty incredible.
It does look incredible. So yeah, I've seen that you've been doing a bunch of live stream thingies. How people have varied opinions about having to do those, and obviously a lot of musicians have been kind of forced into it because they can't do live shows. How has the experience been for you?
Honestly, this has been a godsend for us. I mean, obviously the pandemic has been horrible, but
yeah,
in a lot of ways, we just took to it right away. We had the opportunity to join into a live stream event. We were going to do an in-person, basically street fair in the San Jose area, but they determined, well, let's just turn this into an online event. And due to the lockdown, we just had to do the show as a duo, but we decided, the two of us, let's just make this as impressive of a show as it can be. We didn't want to be, we've seen other performers where it's just someone sitting with an acoustic guitar in their garage, and
right.
We really wanted to exceed that. And, you know, we had some gear, we had some lights, we had our imaginations, and, you know, all the, you know, her great visual imagination and all the, just our decor is so cool anyway. So we just, we made a stage out of it, and just when we did our show, it just really kind of blew a lot of people away. And the fact of the matter is, Michelle's friends and family in New Zealand can watch us in real time, and we've connected with DJs and fans and promoters all over the world. So it's really helped us raise our own visibility.
So speaking of the background, are those candles actually lit behind you?
Oh, we live in an old church. There's no way I'm having flames in here.
I was wondering about that.
These are actually all battery operated, and they're all on remote controls. Which kind of works for our live streaming as well, because we can kind of like
flick it on and boom,
and turn them on, and they all come on. It's just a visual. Yeah,
it looks great, but yeah, I'm going, oh, okay.
Something really different.
Yeah, we don't want it to burst into flame at any moment.
Well, we don't want to burst into flames just living in a church.
Right.
That's a fact. Yeah. So you mentioned that Michelle's from New Zealand, so.
Right.
How did you guys, I hate to go over probably old material for you, but for those who, whereabouts in New Zealand were you, first of all?
I was living in Whangaparoa, you know, just north of Auckland on the peninsula. I was there for 14 years, but I'm originally from New Plymouth in Taranaki.
Oh, from Taranaki, from the Naki. And how did the two of you meet?
We actually met online. James was working on his first solo album, and we got to chatting, and he sent it to me to listen to see what I thought of it.
Right.
And I ended up becoming his designer and art director for his solo album from a great distance away.
Right.
That was back in...
Well, we met in 2008. The album came out in 2009. We just immediately bonded over music and art.
Yeah. But we kind of officially became a couple in 2014.
Right.
So yeah, it was a long friendship.
Yeah, life
Cool.
went through a lot of twists and turns, but here we are. We've been living here in California for about 3.5 years now. We've been married for almost the same amount of time.
Yeah.
Right. Did you get married in your own church?
No, we didn't own this place yet.
Darn, that would have been classic.
But we were on a 90-day visa, which I was not so happy about. But we ended up getting married at City Hall in San Francisco, which is just the most beautiful building.
Oh, nice.
So I kind of was like, oh, well, you know what? I'm all right with this. Great big sweeping marble staircases. I'm like, it's not so bad.
Yeah. And were you doing music in New Zealand?
I was not.
Really?
No. I've always been more into art and design.
Okay.
And when I moved over here, James was still doing his solo music, but he enticed me into becoming his band member.
Good on you.
Yeah, I mean, even though she's new to being a musician, she has a great ear for music. She's a great lover of music.
Right.
And she has a really important perspective that Jason and I don't have. We've both been musicians so long, but she's able to sort of see what works with the audience and help us sort of keep from getting too far into musician land, so to speak.
Gotcha.
And, you know, she's come an incredibly long way as a performer and as a singer. She looks great on stage. She really takes the lead in terms of the visual presentation. Our album cover, our logo, our stage set that we do here, that's all her.
Cool. And
she
so
really
tell me a little bit about your third member, Jason. Where did you find him and what's he all about?
Well, Jason Shaw and we actually met. I was in my early 20s. He was in his late teens. We were in a band together called Spit Kiss down in the San Francisco Bay Area where we both grew up. And it was more of a metal band, but we pretty quickly realized, you know what, the two of us kind of don't belong in this band, but we're into a lot of the same things.
Right.
So we bonded over a lot of the same music, and we did a few bands together, and we've remained friends. I actually hadn't really done music with him for years, but then when I started thinking about putting together what became Ashes Fallen, I found out that he'd moved relatively close by, and I just sent him an email and said, hey, what are you doing? Would you like to come play with us? And to my surprise and delight, he was all about it. And you know, we're not the youngest of guys, and I think we both at times
join the
like
party.
Maybe this music thing has passed us by, but to our surprise and delight, not only have we had a chance to do something again, but this band is really doing probably better than anything we've ever done before. And it's really exciting and exhilarating and kind of rewarding after decades of playing in bands to actually be getting some recognition for what we're doing.
Now, before we get into the actual album, I need to talk a little bit about this the song you recorded in Maori, the Antiracist Goths thing, which I don't know if it is, but it's got to be a first Maori goth connection. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I have always remembered that song from childhood. It's something we used to sing in school.
Right.
I always remembered what it was about, and I just thought it was really appropriate for what we were doing. You know, anti-racist goths, multicultural. That's how I grew up in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Kids from all around the world. Living here in the United States has been a bit of an eye-opener for me, I must admit.
In what way? I'm curious, because being coming from the other direction.
Well, I guess because there's such a large population, you get a more diverse set of people here and different ways of thinking. You know, it's far more religious here than what it is in New Zealand. And some people are very, very staunch in their beliefs, how they grew up, what they were taught. There's not a lot of progression in some people's minds here. Sometimes I wonder what sort of era I'm living in, you know, but that's not everybody. I mean,
No, I know.
That we're surrounded with a very liberal, open-minded, and loving, supportive people. But yeah, it's just not what I'm used to. Definitely not what I'm used to. So when there's a cause like, you know, the ArgFest that we did, I was like, right, yeah, definitely, 100%. And I'm going to bring a bit of my culture and my beliefs to the set from my country, because I've got a different perspective, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds really cool too. So.
Yeah. A bit nervous about that one. I didn't want to get my pronunciation wrong.
Did you get any feedback from back here?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. My friends gave me the big thumbs up.
Oh, good on them. Excellent. Now, so getting to the album,
Yes.
was it mostly recorded during the pandemic or kind of pre or post?
Almost completely during. A couple of the songs we'd started at the beginning of last year before the pandemic started, but the majority of it was written and recorded. A lot of it was written and recorded here. We moved here last September.
Right.
And last year we put out two of the songs as singles, We Belong Nowhere and Thy Will Be Done. But it wasn't until late last year when the album really came together and we really just sort of got everything finalized. I took a week off work and did nothing but just sit in the studio and write and arrange and took all the raw ideas. I mean, there were things that both Michelle and Jason had contributed, but I took all of the raw material and just put it all together into songs. And then we finished it up this year and now it's finally available. And we're so excited.
Very good. Now we should talk about the song that's just, there's a video for Vampira. And I imagine that's going to generate quite a bit of interest. For folks who may not be familiar, who was Vampira?
Take this one. This is your passion project.
Well, I guess Vampira was the original glamour ghoul scream queen from the 1950s.
Right.
Yeah, she did a late night horror host show on a network here in the United States, and it did only last for just over a year. Unfortunately, she was dropped by the network because of some media propaganda garbage about her putting some sort of hex on James Dean when he got killed in his car accident. And, you know, again, how people think, they're like, oh, you know, she's evil.
Right, and she was reacting to just the oppressiveness and of the 1950s. She was sort of skewering everything. I mean, not everyone realizes just what a sense of humor she had about the whole thing.
Oh, absolutely. And it was directly taken from Charles Addams, you know, the Addams Family cartoon that he was doing. Yeah, at the time, you know, Morticia didn't have a name, but, you know, Myla took the sensibilities of Morticia and a little bit of Betty Page and some other things, and created the character. But yeah, she was dropped, and she was out of work for many, many years. I think the only real thing that she did do a few TV appearances, but she did Ed Wood's Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Right.
Yeah, which she's probably most famous for.
Is she in the film?
Non-speaking role.
I'll have to look at the film again now.
Yeah, she refused to speak in the role because the movie was so terrible. But she needed the money because she was destitute. But she kept herself in the 17-inch waist and kept the look for many years.
I saw the waist. Oh my God. I was worried for her just looking at it.
And they did try to revive the role in the 80s.
Right.
But she wouldn't comply with the network's demands.
Yeah, I think they wanted her to just completely sign over her rights to the character, and she refused. This was, I mean, even though, like Michelle said, there were certain things that she knowingly drew it from. This was her creation. This was her character. Yeah. She didn't want to lose control, and so she refused.
Yeah, so they dropped her again, and they just got a younger face, put on the dress, and called her Elvira.
Right, yes.
And unfortunately, Myla died in poverty. She was found in her small apartment passed away on her couch, and the only other thing in the room was a patio chair.
Oh man.
That's all she had, and that's So there's a bit of injustice in the whole entire thing. It happens everywhere. You know, you hear these stories all the time, and I just think, you know, she was the one that really created what we know today. When you look at, you know, Morticia and Elvira and all these other characters.
And Susie Sue, for that matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
girls who emulate the look and what have you, and don't really know where it came from.
Right, yeah.
I wanted everyone to know who she was.
Very cool.
And how important she was to, you know, today's culture. Yeah.
Yeah. I apologize for the horns blowing behind me, but seems to be a lot of traffic outside.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah. All right. And there are a few other tracks I wanted to touch on. The human condition is terminal. Sounds fairly bleak. Just in the lyric, what can you tell me about that one? It seems like there's quite a few synths and things going on in the background there.
The years are lost away. My own self-pride betrayed. I'd lost our will to fight. Not a trace in sight. To my fate resigned. Just leave me behind. In a cell of my own design. Human condition is terminal.
Well, sure. There's a few things we can say about that one. Jason and I both play guitar, but he's a far more advanced fingerstyle guitarist than I am. And so we decided, let's have a song where we can really let that shine. That's not a style you'd normally use in rock music, but it really worked. And as for the lyrics, a lot of it is just, I was just thinking about how people tend to get in their own way and just self-defeating behavior. And certainly something I did a lot of when I was younger, before she came along and set me straight. And just the fact that, I mean, you know, we are what we are, but, you know, life has the potential to be both beautiful and wonderful. And it's also so very brief, which is something that has really come into focus between the pandemic and me losing my mother last year. So that was definitely something I was thinking about a lot when I was writing this album.
Right.
And just, you know, life can be beautiful if you just let it be. Don't defeat yourself and put yourself down. Just love yourself and be everything you can be. That's really what the message of the song is.
Yeah. And I think in general, I saw a quote from you describing the sound of the album as quote unquote sonically more focused than the previous one. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, that is something we did think about as the sound of the band was evolving. I think you mentioned Devin Townsend. And
yes.
I think the first album, it really was that huge wall of sound. I was almost trying to do a little bit more of what he does, but we decided this time, let's kind of strip things down a little. Michelle was really thinking a lot about what makes people move. You know, whenever she'd go to shows and go to the clubs, what are people into? And we decided, particularly from the rhythm section side of things, let's just have a nice, consistent groove, nothing too crazy and complicated. We'll bring the dynamics in with the synthesizer and guitar and vocals, but the rhythm section will just always be present and always be grooving, always be moving, and just try to have a little bit more space for every instrument to shine. A friend of ours said, "Oh, it sounds like there's more keyboard on this album." That's not really true. It's just that you can hear it better because it's not buried under walls of everything else. So that's really what we meant by focused.
Very good. Now the album ends with a track called Requiem. And I was listening to it and I was wondering, is that a saxophone in there somewhere?
That is a saxophone, yes.
Really?
That is the song for my mother, who we unfortunately lost to cancer last year.
Sorry to hear.
And she was the sweetest woman, but she was also my inspiration to become a musician. You know,
Right.
But both of my parents are very musical people, but my mother played in the church choir and she sang and she played guitar and organ and piano and encouraged me to, foster my own interest in music from a very young age. And I hadn't actually played the saxophone in years, but I thought, you know what, if my mother's still out there somewhere, she'd like to hear me play it again. So I spent some time, worked out a part, and
now everybody wants him to play saxophone.
Yeah, there you go.
this is true. I mean, there's lots of singers, there's lots of guitar players in the goth scene. Saxophonists are a little harder to come by.
Can you get a black sax?
You could, sure.
Okay, there you go.
Spray paint. Spray paint works on everything.
So what is the goth scene like? If I can ask, or around where you are, is there a following? Is there a lot of other bands?
Well, and I mean, I guess even though we've moved out of Sacramento proper, we'd still, I suppose, call ourselves a Sacramento band.
Right.
There's a band from Sacramento called True Lies. They're actually doing very well for themselves. They've done some tours of Europe, and they're going to be touring the U.S. before long. When I first moved to Sacramento 6 years ago, I got in a band with a guy who's become a great friend of ours named Erie Locke, and he's had a few bands. He's got two projects right now. He's got a more sort of synthy band called Wicked, and then his more industrial metal band called Esther Black. Thank you. And then there are some more sort of noisy, there's a really young band, really energetic, called Killer Couture. They're a lot of fun. Yeah. And then a more sort of ambient band called Venetian Veil. Yeah, there's definitely some stuff going on. There are a few regular club nights.
Right. And
obviously everything's been shut down for a while, but
yeah.
I'll be out to the clubs again soon.
So that was my next question. Are there gigs coming up? Are you playing out?
At present, the only in-person gig we have scheduled for this year is an annual event in Sacramento called the Vampire Ball. That should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Next year, we are performing at the Out from the Shadows Festival. It's a long 3-day weekend festival in Portland, Oregon, and we're certainly hoping to take this band on the road and do some more shows. At this point, we've never played outside of California where we are. So we're
okay.
And as I mentioned, we've gotten acquainted with so many bands and DJs and promoters and made a lot of friends through the shutdown. And we can't wait to meet these people and actually play with them and share a drink and share a laugh and all that kind of thing.
We are going to go see a festival in October in Florida, where all of these other bands from around America are all sort of congregating, either playing or just going to support. So we're really looking forward to meeting up with all of these people that we've met doing live streams.
Right.
And,
whereabouts in Florida is it?
It's in Tampa. It's in a part of Tampa called Ybor City.
Okay, very cool.
It's a 3-day festival. It should be a lot of fun. Yeah.
And what's the chances of seeing the band down here in New Zealand?
Well, I'm sure we're going to be there at some point.
Yeah, I need to come home. I've got business I need to attend to and friends I need to see. So, definitely would love to. Last time we were in New Zealand, which was November 2019, we were doing a tour with James's mother and his cousin all together as like a family. James's mother wanted to see where I came from.
Right.
And we were in Auckland City for a couple of nights, and everybody had kind of gone off to bed, and I said to James, let's go for a wander out and have a drink somewhere. And we came across a bar down, it wasn't the Viaduct, it was closer to, is it now called Spark Arena? It used to be Victor
Spark Arena, yeah.
Spark Arena.
Right, it was right there.
And there were some acoustic music.
Yeah, in the tuning fork, probably.
Yeah, so we went in there. And me being the way that I am, sort of, and tune your guitar and all this kind of thing. They ended up handing the guitar to James.
And so I just did a little 3-song solo set while they took a break.
Technically, we have played in New Zealand.
Very cool, very cool. Well, you have to make a return with a full band at the tuning fork, and it'd be great there. Yeah,
I'd like to do that. I'd like our friends and to see us play.
Very cool.
Yeah,
and music-wise, are you working on anything in the next, or are you just kind of recovering from releasing this?
I mean, this album only just came out, and so I feel like we worked so hard on this album. And again, thinking about my mother, I decided I really want to be the musician my mother raised me to be. So I'm just going to put everything I've got into this, and I had a lot to say. So would we love to do more music? Sure. But right now, everything I had is on this. So it's
Okay.
going to be a while before I need to generate some more ideas and have some more life experiences, more things to talk about.
Yeah.
So,
I had an idea in the shower just before.
There you go. The next album is on its
I've
way.
got the next one.
all right.
Songs from the shower. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for taking time to talk to me. I really appreciate it. And I love the background. It looks fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, this is the one thing we can't take on tour with us,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Fair enough. Well, these days you should just take a photograph or a video or a looping thing and you can
Yes. Put it up on
probably.
the big screen.
Right. Projection.
All righty. Well, have a great day, guys. And again, thank you very much.
Thanks, Marty.
Thank you so
Right.
much.
Bye-bye.